Yo, what up, what up, what up, friend?
U.S. news and world news. Wow. Y'all, there are two stories out right now which have captivated the United States. The first one is the manhunt for the suspect in the shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. I mean, if you haven't heard about this, you're living under a rock, or you don't watch the news, which is okay. The news is all bad stuff anyway, so I don't really suggest that most people watch it. Anyways, I try to limit my consumption, but this definitely has been a crazy story. So, what happened? A few days ago, Brian Thompson walking to a conference, a healthcare conference. He's the CEO of United Healthcare, one of the biggest healthcare organizations in the United States. All of a sudden, it's kind of like the dark early morning hours, right? It's still not light outside. Hooded dude runs up, silencer, boom, shoots him in the back, takes off. My favorite part, took off on an electric bike or electric scooter. Tremendous. Love it. I will get on this fool for a reason. He's clearly not a criminal. You can tell. And we'll get into who the suspect is. They actually announced today. So you're going to get breaking news of who the suspect is in just a second. But you can tell he wasn't a criminal. And he has no criminal background, the person who's suspect. But you can tell because he did so many things wrong. Dropped his cell phone, dropping a backpack, like just leaving trails everywhere, pulling down your mask in front of cameras, like trying to get away on like electric slow vehicle. Like he just did so many things wrong. You know he's not a criminal. He was just an everyday American that is fed up with the way that healthcare is in this country. And he's not the only one. Now, I do not advocate for murder at all. Killing another person is completely wrong, and this should not have happened. And it sucks that it happened at all. And it more sucks that it necessarily happened to one single person when there's so many people with blood on their hands in this situation. But that is the problem. So many people have blood on their hands in this, and many of them are the CEOs and CFOs and CMOs and other officers and executive officers of these healthcare companies. Does that mean I think no one should be hurt at all? But we have to have reform in the healthcare industry. There are too many Americans, and you've seen the videos come out if you've been paying attention to this story, of everyday Americans who are just their grandmother didn't get the end of life coverage she needed for a hospice. Their baby who was 2 years old, they wouldn't even pay for like orthotics or new shoes. Just all these horrible stories of these insurance companies who, by the way, charge an arm and a leg for insurance premiums, co-pays, and the like, to then screw over these same people is completely unacceptable as well. And we need reform in the healthcare industry. I don't know what that means. I'm not the person that is an expert in this sort of thing, but there's a lot of pros and cons for free healthcare. Yes, there would be a lot longer wait for the healthcare that you may need to get, but it's also free. So again, there's pros and cons to how any of that, and I know that's probably a little too extreme to be accepted in the United States at this point in time, but we need to at least get something, a lot more subsidized insurance and help for people that need help. How are we supposed to get healthier in America if we don't even give people the tools and resources and funds that they need to stay healthy? And then we're feeding people full of processed food and all this other stuff, sugars. And don't get me wrong, I am a sugar addict. I will eat any candy, cake. That's why I'm so fat and I have to go to the gym all the time, because I eat too much damn sugar. It's addicting. That's why. And we are not healthy in this company. We need reform. So let's get into who the suspect is. CNN just broke the news reporting that, and I'm sorry, brother, Luigi Mangione. I'm not sorry because I mispronounced his name. And I don't mean to, it's not a funny story, but he looked like a Luigi. Anybody you saw the picture of him, he looked like a Luigi, right? He looked like a very handsome Italian gentleman. He looked like a Luigi. I mean, that might be stereotypical, but it is what it is. Anyways, apparently the gun was also possibly 3D printed. So now we can 3D print guns that are just going to be able to kill people. This is getting crazy out here. We really need gun reform as well. But anyways, apparently he printed this ghost gun on a 3D machine, and also they found the manifesto. Well, they found the gun on him. Remember when I told you he made a lot of mistakes? He decided to stop at a McDonald's to eat. Fool, you were on the lam. You were on the run. A public place, my friend. McDonald's, no less. I mean, at least go to a restaurant where somebody might not see you or know. McDonald's? Son. Okay. You know what? He was clearly not a criminal. He had no criminal background history. He left a note saying sorry for any, stress this caused or whatever. But it's shocking. And Americans have had their say. A lot of Americans, they're not advocating, but they're saying, well, you let my grandma die, you let my kid die, you let this happen. Why should I feel bad for you, sort of thing? And again, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's right. We should not be amplifying violent rhetoric within this country. But a lot of these people in the healthcare industry, and especially executives, have blood on their hands. And there's no way anyone could argue that whatsoever. So whether we need to make sure the Affordable Care Act is continued on and that, Trump can't repeal that because that's a big thing for all Americans, or, healthcare policy changes, just any certain things that we can do to try to make it easier and more affordable to get healthcare. If we want to keep our people alive and healthy, doesn't that only make sense? Anyways, wow, what a crazy story. Another crazy story. Manhattan jury on December 9th, a couple days, or today, actually, just this morning, acquitted Daniel Penny of criminally negligent homicide. So you all may be saying, oh, wow, what's this story about? So last year, Daniel Penny, who's he's a veteran, former military member, was on the subway. Jordan Neely, a mentally ill homeless man, ran onto the subway and started threatening people, saying that he was going to start killing people or that someone was going to die. So there was a huge case about this because what happened was when he did that, Daniel Penny put him in a chokehold and did not release the chokehold, unfortunately, until the man was already dead, pretty much. Now, when they came to the scene, he had a pulse, but he wasn't breathing when the police got there. What happened on Friday, the judge decided to dismiss the top charge of manslaughter in the second degree when the jury couldn't reach a unanimous decision after 3 days of deliberation, and they couldn't come to an agreement. So the judge dismissed the manslaughter charge, but there was still a criminally negligent civil charge. And so the jury came to not guilty on this. When it was announced, cheers erupted in the courtroom. Neely supporters, family, and friends had a much different reaction, as would you imagine. Enraged, 2 people had to be removed. This is a hard one, right? Yes, obviously, if someone is coming on to threaten people and they look like they may do, that threat needs to be subdued. Right? That threat needs to be taken away. And Daniel Penny did this, and he could have saved possibly many, many lives. Shout out to him for that. Right? The other side of this, I work with the homeless population. It's one of my biggest things that I think we need to get rid of in this country is homelessness, and mental health is another huge thing of mine. So working with mentally ill homeless people, as I do already, I know that a lot of times their actions may not be of all sound mind. I am not excusing anything like this, and I've seen this plenty of times. I saw this the other day. A girl at one of the events I was doing was threatening everybody because she just had an episode. But at the same time, especially as a military man and a veteran, you have to know how to control yourself, and you have to know if you're choking someone could die. And after he's already unconscious, it doesn't make sense to keep going. Like, once he's already fallen asleep, like, not even the UFC is going to let you keep going. Like, the ref is going to stop you. And when it came to that point, he's not dead, but he's unconscious, maybe you want to let go, right? I'm not defending the actions of the mentally ill homeless man. He was wrong in what he did. Daniel Penny was correct in subduing the threat and saving lives. Just got to be more careful in the way that's done, because you could avoid killing them. And maybe he wasn't a bad person. Maybe he was just a mentally ill homeless person having a bad episode. Did they really deserve to die? Just food for thought. Anyways, again, I'm glad he saved lives and I'm glad he got acquitted, but that sort of thing can't continue because then anyone can go out and choke anyone, even if they're not causing a threat. All right, a couple more news stories, and we are going to bring in our special guest, and he is going to actually help us to talk about these two news stories that we have coming up. So I'm not going to go into in depth on them right now since we're about to talk with him, but I do want to briefly broach the topics here. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Wow, we've got a lot of people here. Make sure you're sending in those comments if you have anything. What do y'all think about those cases? Anybody have any thoughts about either the homeless manslaughter case or the Daniel Penny case or the United Healthcare shooting? These are some crazy things. I'd love to hear your thoughts or any questions you may have. I've done research, so I can try to help if you have any questions. Also, hit that like button or that love button, maybe the laugh button. Don't forget the laugh button. I'm pretty funny, ain't I? Pretty funny looking. No, I'm kidding. All right, let's I'm just in a really very silly mood today. All right, let's keep it moving. We don't need to be silly about this. Everything's very serious now. All right, moving on to some more news in the United States. Donald Trump had an NBC interview, which again we will talk about here in a second with our guest political strategist Amul Madan. So Trump did an NBC news interview this weekend, and he got into many topics, including on the economy, immigration, and all these other policies that he is planning to put into effect. So let's go through a couple of things he said. First, he said that he will allow Jerome Powell to continue as U.S.'s top economic policymaker. So as the head of the Federal Reserve. So Jerome Powell will remain there through the end of his term in 2026. Which is what was not thought was going to happen because Donald Trump had so many issues with Jerome Powell within his first term. He actually said Jerome Powell was more of a threat to the economy than China. No, I mean, but Trump says reckless stuff about everybody in the world, so that ain't nothing new. Yep, Amul, I'll send you the link in just a second. I got the chat up. Once I'm done introing these topics, I will send it over and go ahead and jump. Actually, I'm going to send it to you right now. I just sent it. Jump in, and if you want to add your Instagram or Facebook, you can do that at the top with the edit button. I'll bring you in just a second. All right. So again, that means that, the person that has been in charge of the economy will stay. So at least we will have some sort of carryover and security in terms of changing of administrations and what might happen with the economy. He also talked tariffs, tax cuts, and immigration. On tariffs, he answered that when asked if he could promise Americans that the proposed tariffs would not cause prices to rise, he said that he cannot guarantee anything. And anyone who was stupid enough to believe his claims within the campaign that he ran, where he said that tariffs were not going to raise prices, well, you should just go read up on some basic economics, because that is simply supply and demand. And if you put a tariff on the supply of products coming into our country from another country, well, either that demand is first of all, the prices are going to get raised, which is exactly what's going to happen. Prices are going to be passed on to American consumers, especially those of you who love avocados. Good thing I hate avocado. I don't have to worry about that. The price is about to go up on them things. But anyways, you're also going to have the demand increase or decrease rather. So now you're causing issues to the supply chain. I knew that when he first said it. I was like, that's not a good idea. But it is what it is. He's going to try to do it. And, I truly hope that he is able to, if nothing else, make the economy better. Since he is a businessman and dealt with a lot of money in his life, I would hope at least he could do that. Anyways, he will also aim to extend his tax cuts. We talked about these tax cuts last episode that Amul was on. And we talked about the figures on this. Most of the tax cuts will go to the rich and wealthy, the people making over $1 million a year, $250,000 a year. For the average American family, your taxes will only be cut by $1,000. So, shout out to you for voting for, the rich getting richer. I mean, it's what happens in this country. We're in America. If you can lobby yourself to make more money, you're gonna be able to do it. So it is what it is. On immigration, now this is a very sticky one with both sides of the aisle, but Trump reiterated his pledge to carry out mass deportations on illegal immigrants, despite the pleas of industries such as construction and agriculture. And you might ask, why would those industries be complaining about a mass deportation? Well, because a lot of people that work in those industries are immigrants, whether legal or illegal. And taking those people away is going to be a huge hit to our economy. First of all, it's going to cost countless of $billions to even enact this kind of deportation. But then if he was successful in doing that, a lot of jobs are going to go unfilled because there's going to be a lot of people sent back that were doing jobs that most people don't want to do. If anybody knows me, I don't do manual labor. You ain't going to find me picking up a hammer, a paintbrush, a slab of wood. You ain't going to find me doing nothing like that. I work on a computer. I don't care if you think I'm soft. I'm not. And if you want to come put them dukes, let me stop before I get a little crazy on it. No, for real though. I don't do manual labor. I have no desire to do that much work and get paid that little. Now, some jobs, obviously, harder jobs, more dangerous jobs, more specialized jobs, they get paid more, so they can attract talent that may want to do those jobs. But a lot of those jobs are jobs that most people don't want to do, and most Americans don't want to do. Let's be honest with you, right? So, and then possibly eliminating birthright citizenship, so anyone born in the United States would not be considered a U.S. immigrant, or a U.S. citizen, which has been enshrined into the Constitution since the 14th Amendment. I can't see that happening. There's going to be a lot of legal challenges to that. I don't know that the Supreme Court would let that happen. We will ask Amul when we bring him on in just a second, which we will do right now after I introduce this final topic, world news, biggest news in the world right now. If you did not hear, last night, today, Syrian opposition rebel forces have captured the city of Damascus, and they have toppled and took over the regime of Bashar al-Assad. This is huge, y'all. Huge. He has been a dictator in charge of Syria for 50 plus years. His family has been in charge. And wow. Imagine this is like Kim Jong-un or Putin in Russia being overthrown, right? That's what this type of move is. This is seismic, earthquake kind of news. So what happened? A Syrian group called Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and their leader Abu Muhammad al-Golani, he actually established this group as a part of as an al-Qaeda affiliate in 2012, fighting U.S. forces. But eventually, throughout the years, he actually, which is weird because I've never really, I have before, but it's more when people are coerced by the other government into changing sides. But this guy somehow became an activist from a terrorist and started supporting religious freedoms and pluralism and equality and these other things. Now we'll see if he actually is about that or if it was all just talk. But the fact that he has they have been able to take over the country is just diabolical work. And it started a week ago, and now they're going to try to build Syria up into a more accepting community, is what they say. Again, I don't know how serious he is about that, but if he can do that, they seem to be very happy in Syria today, a lot of the people. So we'll see what happens with that, but stunning news. It is estimated the Syrian Action Network, which is a human rights network in Syria, estimates that at a minimum, Assad has been responsible for the deaths of over 200,000 Syrians. That's some Saddam Hussein level type nihilistic murder. So wow, crazy. So y'all, yeah, that's a bit of craziness going on in the world. A special guest, friend of the show. You've seen him here before, and obviously he is very well versed in politics, news, and things like that. So, and being a Nationals fan, he's well versed in Juan Soto. So I figured this would be a perfect episode to bring him back and get some of his opinions. He is our political strategist, Amul Madan. What is going on, brother? How is it going?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Go ahead and move that camera down a little bit so we can see that beautiful face. All I'm getting is your forehead. There we go. Look at that. Wearing a plaid shirt like you're a lumberjack in the Smoky Mountains out here.
On TikTok, I mentioned this on the YouTube show just earlier this evening, where I was talking about Frank McCourt. Frank McCourt was on my as I like to affectionately refer to her as, my wife, Margaret Brennan. She's the host of Face the Nation, and he was talking about how for those that are in the IT community, they've already built out a stack that allows US users from TikTok to basically keep their data. The algorithm, I don't think changes, but if it goes the direction that it does where it gets banned, they're ready and willing and able to move everyone over. Let it get banned. Like, I'm not
very
for it.
interesting.
I say that I'm not for it. I was on TikTok for a while, but like, because of what the Chinese are doing, it's just, it would be easier if it was American made, in my opinion. And if Frank McCourt has a tech stack that is ready, willing, and able, why not use it? To the United Healthcare issue that I know you wanted to talk about. I've got a couple notes since you and I messaged right before this. I don't think you mentioned, because I was watching earlier, the Mangione is the cousin of Republican Baltimore County delegate. I'm looking on my second screen now. Nino Mangione. So he's based out of Baltimore. Yeah. So he's local. He's Towson, Maryland. So if you're in Towson, Maryland tonight, hide your kids, hide your wife.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? So now he's giving us breaking news that this suspect of the UHC case, the United Healthcare case, is now related to a politician in Baltimore. So things get deeper, more of a tangled webs that we're weaving here within this story. Talking about the United Healthcare case, the murder suspect on the hunt. And we have a suspect, breaking news again, reported just a couple minutes ago, it was just about an hour ago, CNN reported that the suspect is named Luigi Mangione. And so he is the suspect at large still. And so we're getting actual updates right now, including that he is related to politicians, which is going to make this story so much more crazy. And just the fact that, again, he wasn't even a criminal, right? He is a regular, everyday American. Something happened along the way. Somebody in his family didn't get the coverage they needed, maybe including himself. Whatever is the case, something drove an average American with no criminal backgrounding, no prior criminal history to commit a murder. Do you know how many mental hurdles it takes in your mind? I mean, I don't know. I've never killed anybody, but I'm assuming in order to kill somebody, you've got to jump over a lot of mental hurdles. You've got to do a lot of convincing of your own psyche that what you're doing is actually the right thing. And this guy, as many Americans are, were so fed up with the healthcare industry that he decided it was time to take things into his own hands. They found a manifesto written by him, a 2-page manifesto decrying the healthcare industry and all the bad things that it does, and all the ways that it doesn't help American citizens. And he ended it with, "I'm sorry if this causes any strife or division, but it had to be done." He was feeling like he was taking this on for all Americans that have been aggrieved in the adjudication process, or the many different forms and investigations and things that have to happen when filing claims or submitting things to health insurance companies. Now you got to deal with the AI actually accepting or denying your claim. Like, AI is great for a lot of things, y'all. I'm a digital marketer. I teach my students how to use AI. I use AI for my marketing, for my clients every day. But AI doesn't need to be used for everything. It really, really doesn't. And sometimes you need that human touch. And just like in marketing or digital marketing, where you can have the AI create copy for you or create content for you, you still got to have a human eye to look over it, to edit it. You still have to, we'll bring him back on when he gets back in. I'll bring him back in. You still have to be able to give it that human touch. And now with the healthcare industry as it is, if you're having AI accepting and denying applications and not actually giving people a person to think about, okay, well, maybe during this circumstance, the baby is 2 years old, they're growing very fast, they need footwear or orthotics. I just remember this story because the lady, she did a TikTok and she was like, my kid was 2 and they wouldn't pay for his shoes, and because that he was growing too fast was their excuse. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Now, obviously, she is telling this story, so I have to believe her for what she's saying. But she's not the only one with that story, and there's plenty of those. Another person was saying how they couldn't get end-of-life care or hospice care for their mother, who was an elderly woman and needed that care. Like, that's crazy. We should not be depriving our people or denigrating our community, our people. We are together in this as a nation. We are a family, and we need to help each other out when it comes to the health of the country at large. Healthcare is a very, very big problem. So that's about all that really needs to be said about that. Is there needs to be reform. Now, again, no advocating for murder on any point for anyone.
I'm a huge fan of the beat by Ari Melber, mostly because he mixes in rap lyrics into the news whenever he wants to. And he had several people on talking about how Mangione was related to Nino Mangione. They didn't get into any of the particulars. They didn't want to do that because they pivoted hard to Syria, which I'd love to touch on with you here in a few minutes. But I just found it to be very interesting as things come out. I do want to also say this. I echo your sentiments. There are a lot of issues with healthcare in this country. You do not need to gun down a CEO. If you do, then you will face justice. That's the way this country works. Like, you can't do that. I'm not going to advocate for shooting CEOs. That's not what I'm here for. We're in an age where I'm not going to give you the whole spiel, but we're in an age where a lot of people are being disrespected, and in some cases, it's warranted. There are a lot of keyboard warriors, but if you're talking about violence towards a CEO, there's a reason why a lot of CEOs now are backstepping on how they want to talk to the public. There's a reason why, a lot of CEOs are just CFOs, CMOs, like you were talking about earlier, just want to rethink things because what happened was tragic. Unfortunately, we live in a time where something like that can happen. And, it's really sad that he passed away. But I want to say this too. It would have been better for him to go up to the CEO, start a conversation, tap him on the shoulder, stand next to him and say, hey, how you doing? Let me shake your hand. Let's talk about things amicably as opposed to resorting to violence. A lot of good things can be had, can be found, can be gained when you solve them amicably nowadays. It's a very sad day in that regard.
And so what else?
I would love
what kind of healthcare? I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were done. I apologize. What kind of healthcare
No,
reforms
it's
can
fine.
we
I
look
was
at?
beginning to go on.
No, you're good. What kind of healthcare reforms can we look at in this
So,
country? What are some options here?
well, I'm glad you asked because since I'm basically your James Carville at this point, and for those that watch the beat, they'll understand that reference. But a lot of PBMs, pharmacy benefit manufacturers, basically run things nowadays. So it would be a good idea, possibly, to like change the way they do things. Now, that's just the beginnings of a plan. It's not a plan that I'm going to go ahead and enact. I am not 47. We have a guy that's filling that role. He's getting inaugurated in January. But I would change things up there, and make it so that it's easier to see a doctor. It's easier to get in. It's when you need to. It costs less to have kids in this country. I read a stat somewhere that it's like anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 to have a kid, unless you have hospital connections. You will be spending $4,000 to $6,000 just, and we're not just talking having the kid. You're talking like the stay, the procedures, all of that. So I would say change starts from the top. It starts from somebody who is leading HHS, who actually knows what they're doing. I don't know if the incoming candidate for HHS necessarily does, but maybe we'll hash that out over McDonald's because that's what he likes nowadays. So,
it's definitely going to be a talk going forward, especially with him nominating RFK Jr. for the Health and Services Director. Obviously, we know that he has espoused some counter views. Let's say I'm not going to say that they're completely, batshit crazy, but there are some people that would say that some of his policies could be on the side of extreme. We could get all into that, and then we will next in 2025 once he's coming up to be inaugurated. I'm going to bring you back on so we can talk about his cabinet in depth. But
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, for now we'll just say that RFK Jr. is a controversial choice, but the fact remains that the healthcare industry in this country needs overhaul, needs reformation, and if it takes someone a little off the wall to do it, well then so be it. And that's kind of where I'm at now with the whole Donald Trump presidency in general. Is I'm really hoping for the best. I'm hoping that he can make sure that the economy continues on an upward trajectory, that we're able to bring down the unemployment rate a little further, bring up the GDP, bring inflation down a little bit, maybe at least put some guardrails in place on immigration. I don't agree with mass deportation, that I definitely do not agree with, but at least some sort of guardrails. Now,
I don't agree with that either. Yeah, I don't agree with that either. Yeah.
And so I'm not exactly at this point hopeful, because I know that Donald Trump's first term, he did talk a lot of, and boost up a lot of things that he never actually got done. So again, we just have to hold out hope that maybe this time around, he's able to make substantive change, or at least he cares enough to, because he knows he's not going to have another chance after these 4 years. What are your sentiments on that?
He's right about Jerome Powell, though. Right, but he's right about Jerome Powell.
Okay, so go ahead and talk about that.
He's right about Jerome Powell. Like, I say, okay, so the whole JP thing, don't get me wrong, I love Jerome Powell. I think he's great. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. When JP talks, the markets move. So if you have a portfolio, if you're fortunate enough to have a 401k, or you are invested in stocks, even crypto, when he comes out and he's about to drop a mixtape, as my friends and I like to say, just hold on to your butts, basically. Thank you, Samuel L. But basically, whatever he says moves the market up and down, and that affects everything else. Savings rates go down when he's talking about bringing things down to 2%, and inflation rate down to 2%, or what he thinks is appropriate. Savings rates come down with that. CD rates come down with that. I think also home loan rates come down with that as well, but I think that might be slower. I'd have to look into that and get back to you on that. But yeah, it's when he talks, like my friends and I say, like he drops a mixtape. Like it's a lot like when Scalia and Ruth Bader Ginsburg were alive, and either one would write a dissenting opinion. It was a must read material. Jerome Powell's, you know that he's doing well for the country. I understand where he's coming from. That's where I sort of hope that 47 is sort of, saying it in jest that he's a menace to society. But I mean, he at least drinks his juice. So, we're good to go there. But I hope for the best when it comes to Trump and his presidency.
Menace to Society has been this man's whole life, not even career. Like, if Menace to Society weren't based in the hood, it would have been a documentary on Donald Trump. And that in no way comes from
That's true. That's true.
It in no way comes from any place of disregard or disrespect or anything. It's just the way he does business. He doesn't care about anybody but himself, and that's why a lot of people voted for him this time around, because he is a strong man that is going to try to get his way all the time. A lot of people like that.
Yeah, and we have to hope for the best, because that's where we are right now. Obviously, I hope.
So what do you say then to those people who clearly do not? And obviously, your boy JP understands the Fed. And it's good we'll have some kind of stability.
Yeah.
But obviously, tariffs were going to raise prices on the average American for goods coming from those countries.
Yeah, they should do that.
Right? Can you explain a little more on that?
Sure. When tariffs are applied, we can take cars, we can take avocados. You mentioned avocados. And I love avocados. I know you don't. But the prices have already gone up. And that too, the stock that we get at grocery stores is, I went over the weekend and they were all like, it was just a bad bunch of avocados. Every single bunch was awful. They were all old. So it's already affecting us. And that's what a lot of people don't get, is that when tariffs are passed or tariffs are suggested, that oftentimes it isn't right when the tariff is implemented. It's beforehand, a couple months beforehand, and then you just start seeing things. My local grocery store, they still don't have brown eggs. I know why they don't have brown eggs, because of the salmonella and all this other issues that they were having out in California, I think. But they bumped up the price of eggs a couple dollars. So it's already starting. And we just have to, I hope we don't get to a point where we have to pick and choose what we have to buy at the grocery store. I hope we can get what we can get in a reasonable price, but we'll see how things shake out.
Most Americans are just struggling to buy anything, right? So it's like the price of things, during the past few years, we know inflation went up, and that was, since COVID. Right. So it wasn't just one presidential administration; it was over the course of two.
No,
but people are struggling.
It's definitely Biden too. Yeah, it's definitely Biden too. I'm not saying that Biden's completely in the clear. He's not. But it's just one of those things where when you announce tariffs, and a lot of people don't know what tariffs are, and we get news nowadays in small little bites. We were talking about TikTok earlier. You're not going to read an article that's again on my second screen, or something you send or something I send you. Not many people are going to take the time to actually do that. So I think we got to wish the best for what's happening. We have to also defend democracy to an extent, but I'm going to leave that to whoever is next in charge of the DNC, because they have a lot of thinking to do. Like, I think there is a better chance that GTA 6 comes out before the Democrats figure out a really good, path forward. I'll say that. And I apologize. I apologize, but that is a meme, as most of y'all know.
But you're completely right. And the thing is that that looking, it's just hard to really judge a situation based on only really knowing a few different viewpoints of people's inner lives. Like, right, we all have a certain number of friends which we're really close enough to that we probably know the inner workings of their job and how much money they make and if they're doing okay and things like that. And again, for the majority of people at this point in time, a lot of people have been struggling since COVID. And again, COVID did a number on the whole economy across the world, and it also did a number on even stuff like immigration and other topics that we need to touch on. And the one that we are going to touch on now before we get out of here, we're going to touch on two more topics. But immigration, I bring this up because Trump wants to do a mass deportation of illegal immigrants, but obviously this is going to face a barrage of legal challenges. What do you say to this?
Yes. The legal challenges are going to be sound. You need 3/4 of, I looked this up beforehand, you need 3/4 of states' approval to overturn the 14th Amendment. I don't think you're going to have 3/4 approval. So before it even gets to the Supreme Court, you need 3/4 states' approval. You need 2/3 of Congress, both the House and the Senate. So that's everyone. That's not just the Republicans. So
so basically an act of God, because you need 38 states and all of the government.
Yeah. He basically needs to play NBA. Like, it's like playing NBA 2K, but you're the admin of everything. Like, it's playing God basically. Like, and you can't do that. I mean, I understand where his head is at, but you got to understand things can switch. I wanted to talk to you about this because you and I were born and raised here. I think I know I was, but and I know you were, but like. It could happen to us because things can be doctored. AI is huge now. So when they say they can send people back, this is why I've started saying a little bit with this incoming administration, wish them well, sure, but watch out for yourself, not necessarily saying put yourself first, but put yourself first. Get your mind right, invest in your education, do what you need to do, and hope that all is going to be well in 4 years.
Yeah, and that's crazy because my mom, as a government worker, today we were just watching the news when she got home, and she's like, well, what if they try to deport me? And I said, well, first of all, Mom, we're Puerto Rican. And she's like, yeah, but still, I wasn't in the military like you or your father. Like, if they start to decide that people who even just territories are just that, territories, and those people need to be sent back. My mom was like, I might get sent back to Puerto Rico. And I was like, damn, now that you put it that way, maybe if they were able to eliminate, but again, this would take an absolute act of God, as you said, and that he is not.
It would.
As a follower of Christ.
It would. It's not, and it's, it's not something, and I'm a follower of Ganesha. That would never happen, in my opinion. Like, me, like with Ganesha and Krishna, it would never happen. It would never stand. But
so we both don't think that's going to happen, right? But he's going to want to do something with immigration. So eventually, we're going to see how this all shakes out. But obviously, go ahead.
I heard 2 million. I heard 2 million people on Face the Nation on Sunday. They had someone on, and at least 2 million people, most of whom, I think the guy who said it was talking about day workers, those that are working on farms or working seasonally. And I apologize if that offends anyone the way that I brought it up. It's just something they mentioned on they described the guy who's talking described it as that. So those would be the 2 million people who they're looking at deporting. So
yeah, the jobs
mean,
that no normal Americans are going to want to do. No normal American want to go out and work in the field picking corn or shucking corn or whatever they do. Mowing fields. Being a maid at a hotel. How many Americans want to be a maid at a hotel? Not very many. I can tell you that right now. Okay, and that includes me. I don't want to do any of these things. I'm not saying this about any certain race or anything. I'm saying this about Americans in general because we're lazy as an American people, and we most of us we don't want to do jobs that are going to be that difficult, that labor intensive. Just is what it is.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah, of course not. And we'll see how things play out. We have to wish for the best and sort of. It looks like I'm frozen. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you.
If you can still hear me, then okay, good.
Yeah, it makes me happy though, because now I can say that other people are frozen, not just myself. So technical difficulties for everybody. That being said, we are about to get out of here anyways. Because the football game is already on, and I know
want to talk about
followers. Yes, like to watch football, so we'll get out of here for that. But before we do, the one last topic we had to talk about: Syrian.
You want to talk about Assad?
Yep, I want to talk about Assad. So Bashar al-Assad was the city of Damascus was captured by Syrian rebel forces, specifically the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. Assad fled. Yes, exactly. HTS. Assad fled. There are two differing reports right now. I cannot get even through my internal channels. My internal governmental channels that I still have, I cannot get solid word on what exactly has happened. Some people are saying that he has gotten to Moscow and has received political asylum from Putin, but other people, including the rebels, are claiming that they shot his plane down, and tracking from plane tracker or flight tracker showed that the plane he was in actually went down. Now they could have just purposely gone below the radar to try to.
That's breaking news. That's breaking news because the Post, the New York Times, the Boston Globe, all these newspapers that I have notifications for, all said that he basically got a one-way pass to the KHL and in Moscow. And I'm not trying to joke about it. What he did. The things that he did are on the level of Saddam Hussein. It's just abysmal and awful what he did. Where do I see Syria going? Because right now the guy that's running Syria is being proclaimed by the U.S. as a terrorist, and therefore the U.S. can't communicate with him. So they have to basically take him off the terrorist list. And apparently discussions are ongoing there. I have no inside info into that. I'm telling you what I hear on the news or have read. But there will be, as we like to say, there will be more to come on what happens in the future. Obviously, I would love for Syria to be, possibly a burgeoning democracy. But we will see how things shake out there, because if the guy has decided after going to an ashram or going to somewhere, peaceful, that, he wants to do things the right way, then okay, let's give him a chance. Like, I think I heard this right before I came on here, how they're apparently blowing up they're demilitarizing the country. I don't know if you had heard that, but they're basically blowing up everything. So what do you think about it in terms of them demilitarizing? Because that means they're going to lean on support from like Russia or the U.S. maybe.
Yeah, and that's the difficult part. And I have to be very careful with what I say, because when I was in the government, I did a lot of work in this regarding all of these said countries. So I have to be very careful in what I say. But that is very unlikely due to exactly what you said. previous regime in Syria was backed by Russia, Iran, and other terrorist group entities. This guy, who was the leader of a former Al-Qaeda affiliate group, which, as you mentioned, is considered to be still a terrorist group in the United States, no matter what he said about his intentions or what he wants to do, you cannot trust that anyone that has previously been affiliated with a terrorist group is going to want to move things in the way of progressive democracy, especially considering the nature of the region that they're in, being that they're bordered right next to Russia, and Russia's already in it with Ukraine. And Trump said he's going to try to end that, but all of these different hostilities are going to cause more things to happen regionally within the Middle East. It could potentially even cause more hostility.
I agree. Yeah, and it's going to be more. It's just going to be, the State Department's obviously going to raise the flag there and say don't travel to Syria probably over the next couple of years. But you have to see, I mean, the Syrian people certainly have a lot of faith in them. The guy that was on Face the Nation on Sunday was like, well, we were able to do it. There was a coalition of our own people. We had no need for outside help. Okay, but who's running it now? Who can actually talk to him? Can Macron? Can the Irish PM, the British PM talk to him? Can whoever's leading Ireland talk to him? Probably not. German Chancellor, maybe. So hopefully things will shake out in a good way. We'll see. We prefer that we avoid a war, obviously.
And that is the issue with televised revolutions. In order to have a revolution be televised, you need to have the right network and connections to be respected enough to have a say on the world stage. And we do not know yet that this group or this guy that leads this group is even going to have that sort of cachet or that sort of networking ability to be able to bring them up into a democracy. So while I would agree that demilitarization may be helpful in terms of progressing towards a democracy, I just cannot see within that area, within the other countries and the way that their religions and religious sects run things and the different beliefs that they have about Western civilization, I can't see it becoming a democracy anytime soon. And I don't know where they get help from, because if they're not backed by Russia and Iran, which they could be, but it's going to take a lot of work to consider back the previous regime. I don't put it past us. We've worked with countless terrorists, which pushing up down the tower. Excuse me. We've worked with countless terrorist groups dating back all of our history, so we know how deep our government can get into conspiracies.
Gil Scott Heron, he wrote a satirical poem in the 1970s. He recorded for an album in 1970 called "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." Gil Scott Heron was right. I'll just say that. So
always right. I haven't seen one televised revolution be a success yet, so we'll see.
Yeah.
$5.